Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-hosts Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? Appreciate you guys joining us yet again on the the Coaching 101 podcast. Woo! This has been a mix-up this week. I almost messed up the intro on the football coaching podcast yesterday. Gonna have to change intros. I'm Daniel Chamberlain. That's Kenny Simpson. We're your hosts. Coach, we've almost made it. I think when this episode comes out, it will be the Sunday before week 1.
Okay. Yeah, we just had our scrimmage last night, so it was you're kind of getting into where the games are getting more real and putting on your uniform, and that first kickoff, you get butterflies, and the games just kind of get bigger as the season goes on, and so it's here. Football is here, and I know in my state, I know that a couple states have already played 2 games.
Right.
So I think there's several states that are starting to open up, and man, it goes quick. It goes really, really quick, and bam, you're done. And I think a lot of guys put a lot of time and effort into it, and then it just seems to, the days are long, but the years are short. I don't know exactly how they say that, but basically feels long when you're in it, but then you look back and it goes by very, very quickly. So good luck to all the guys that are listening. So we had our scrimmage, and when you have scrimmages, in my mind, I don't really want to be like great in our scrimmage, because then what are you going to get better at? And so Good for me, we weren't, and so we got a long way to go with our team, but our kids are very resilient kids, and a lot of potential there, and had a lot of really good moments, but a lot of teaching lessons. And so that's kind of where we are in the season. I know a lot of people are probably in that same boat. And, when you come out of scrimmages, there's, in my mind, you don't want to come out of that deflated, or you're like, man, we're not very good. Right. But you also don't want to come out of that with like an overconfident sense of, man, we are really good. So we tried to schedule up this year, play a team that's a class above us, and we held our own for a bit. But I think we ended up, if we played 3 quarters, I don't know if it was even a game, but if you called it a game at the end of 3 quarters, It was 14-16. So it wasn't like it was bad, but it was perfect for us because no one got hurt, and we had a whole lot of film and a lot of teaching and improving to do, and a lot of eager listeners because they got embarrassed a little bit. I think we feel we could be better than we were, and so that's a good place to be, I think.
Absolutely. That's pretty impressive to schedule up a full class and then still kind of go out and hang with them. That's one of the, 14-16 after the third, you never know which way that game's going to go, right?
We missed a field goal and they made one. That was the difference in the game. And, a couple bad play calls by old Coach Simpson, or we probably could have scored a little bit more. Of course, we're holding stuff back as a scrim, and I'm sure they were too. I'm sure both teams were. Sure. And if you're in here and you're going through week 1, 2, and 3, it's always a fine balance of what do you show, what do you hold back, because the games that matter aren't for another 4 weeks for us. That's when conference play starts. So you're kind of in that in-between land where you want to win these because you're starting next week for us. They go on your record, so you want to win them, but you also need to be ready to peak at the right time. And so I think that's kind of a fine balance, which I know tonight we're talking about blitzes, but I think there's how much do you have in? What are you working? What are you showing? What are you holding back? There's always a fine, delicate balance, I think, in the coaching world.
Yeah, I always talk about the game within the game, right? It's like you go into a scrimmage, those week 1 and 2 opponents, you really can surprise them, especially, if you're a new staff or a new offense, putting in a new scheme, they don't know what you're going to do. They have no idea. And so we always talk about, you can kind of, maybe there is something you want to put on someone in week 3 or 4. You show it in your scrimmage, And then you don't run it in weeks 1, 2, and 3, right? So those guys are looking at your scrimmage film like, oh, we got to get ready for it. Just get them chasing ghosts, wasting that time. It could be formations or passing concepts, whatever, run game concepts, just that game within the game. That's what I think I get really excited about here in the preseason time. We get into these scrimmages is you got to go out and do your base stuff. You got to make sure you're good, that your kids can play, at speed, doing what they're supposed to do. But it's all the fun stuff that comes after that.
Yeah,
So.
tendencies and all that stuff. As an OC or a DC, what are our tendencies? What do we want to put on film as a tendency, and have a counter for it. And then I don't know if you know this, Daniel, but I have books about my offense, and so you're not really hiding a whole lot. But every year we evolve and we add 2 or 3 concepts. New quarterback, so he's got some things he can do that we're excited about. Well, we don't want to just put that out there, until we have to put that out there. And we got 2 tight ends this year, so we got some really cool stuff we're doing there. And again, you kind of like how much we want to show here, how much we want to save for the game that really matters. And
I love it.
so I'm excited about some of the stuff we've got. Our kids they understood, but man, they were like, Coach, if you called this, I said, I know, I see it. I said, but there's a reason we're not showing that right now. And so I think it's fun for the kids to always kind of have something they know that, hey, okay, we've got this thing we could do. And so it's fun to watch that.
Awesome. Yep, I love it. I was going to ask you about breaking in a new quarterback. I'm sure that's always,
we found a new trick. If you want to help your quarterback out, when you run jet sweep, have him toss it forward. Well, we run buck that way. So he was 15 of 20 passing. And I'm not an air raid guy. So 7 of those were buck sweep from motion. So he was 7 of 7 on those. So then he really was, 8 of 15 or 8 of whatever's left, 8 of 13 passing. We threw it more. I think he's going to have the ability to do that. And so it was neat to watch him. We only ran him 4 times for like 44 yards. So a lot of stuff that's there that, of course, you're going to be careful with what you show and what you do. But to me, that's what those games are about, finding out what your quarterback can do, what he can't do. And then as you get into games that matter, kind of knowing what you're able to do. We try to make an in-game quick adjustment, like something we'd never run ever. And he's a sophomore, and I thought he picked up on it like that. I said, okay, we got one now. He's pretty special if you can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's a good deal. Sweet, man. We'll get into talking here. Before we do, Coach, can you share some ways to make things simpler for our staff and our athletes? What's up, coaches? I want to talk to you for just a few moments about your program. The longer I'm in this profession, the more I understand that efficiency is truly the name of the game. You're talking offense, defense, doesn't matter, right? Eventually, you're going to come down to checking out your efficiency. So I have to ask you, are you doing everything in your program the most efficient way, right? Are you fundraising the most efficient way? Are you representing your players and your program to the public in the best way? Are you planning to build the facilities the most efficient way? If you answered no to any of those, or really even if you answered yes to all of them, and you haven't contacted Mark Bridges at Ace Sports, you're missing a key step. So look, Mark and his team, they are the go-to group for video board and scoreboard installations for your school. They're not just football either. Mark can help you mock up your newest video board for that new stadium, or maybe even your old stadium, right? That's where Mark and the guys come in. And we're not just buying a flashy thing, right? Yes, it's nice. It's pretty neat to have that big scoreboard, that big video board, but you're also, you're investing back into that program. You're investing into that newest fundraiser. Sure, you can keep selling your discount cards, your beef jerky, hosting pie auctions, whatever it is that you like to do. But let's just be honest with ourselves, guys. We're not making enough money for those big ticket items. For the big ticket items like turf, an indoor facility, that's where you need a big ticket item fundraiser. That's what Ace Sports is offering you today. Guys, I've talked to Mark several times now, all right? And it always comes down to big school, small school. Right? Well, of course, the big schools can afford that new video board, but the small schools really can't. It's just not true anymore, man. Your school isn't too small, and I promise. Okay, 1A, 2A schools, it doesn't matter. Mark and the guys, they're helping them out. Contact Mark today at mark.bridges@acesports.com and let him come give you a quote. Let him show you and your administration the plan. Not really, it's the cheat code, right? Let him show you the cheat code that is fundraising with Ace Sports video boards. Tell him Daniel sent you. This episode is brought to you by Athletic Speed and Movement. At athleticspeedmovement.com, we've taken Del Basquet's 45 years of speed and movement training and put it all in one place just for you. You can get the same training that NFL players have been getting for years, collegiate players have been getting for years, and now high schools across the nation are paying thousands of dollars to bring Del in to install his system, but we've got it online for you. It's time to help your team become faster, not just in the 40, not just their sprint speed, but between the tackles and their cuts while they're chasing down the quarterback. It's time for you to help them become faster everywhere. Jump over to athleticspeedmovement.com. There's an orange button there. Just click it. It says, get the keys to playing faster. You'll get the 3 core movement video from Dell. He's explaining the science behind it all for just the price of your email. Check it out, athleticspeedmovement.com.
Coaching 101 podcast is sponsored by Findaway Productions. Findaway Productions also sponsors fbcoachsimpson.com for all your coaching needs, with over 30 coaching materials, books, as well as 50 PowerPoints and videos and smaller materials and the free magazine headsets. Findaway Productions also sponsors offensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things offense, and defensivecoordinatoracademy.com, all things defense.
All right, appreciate that, Coach. Guys, the ads are there. We don't want to beat them up too much. Go back and listen to them if you didn't. Don't skip the ads. All right, there's good stuff. I guess if you've been listening for a long time, you kind of know what they are. Go out, get you a video board. Okay, go to fbcoachsimpson.com. Check out the gun tee stuff, and then athleticspeedmovement.com. That's the big 3 you want to get to right now. All of those are very usable in season. Like I said last week, the video board thing, it's a great time to kind of get your advantage because you can take your admins at the game and tell them, look how cool it'd be if I have a 30-foot video board over there, right? So go check those things out. Go to those websites. Go talk to those people. Adding something new to the podcast tonight. So as we go through season 4 here, we're kind of adding to, and I know I've put the intro on there that you guys have heard, and we're going to have some more guests, get some more kind of let the community come back on the podcast some and let some guests come on and speak. So hopefully we start getting those scheduled out here pretty quick. But when we start adding a quote of the week, I'm a big quote guy. I know Kenny's a huge quote guy, huge enough that he makes books about them, right? So if you haven't already heard, the Team Themes Volume 4 is out. Highly recommend you get out and get that book or any of the first 3. If you've not used any, then they're all brand new to you. So grab you a Team Themes book. And it just gives you something to talk about the kids with that week. And the way Kenny's organized it, it's laid out for you Monday through Friday. You got something to talk about to keep one theme for the entire week. But tonight we're going to start with our quote of the week. So, Coach, if you don't mind, give us our quote of the week here.
Sure. So quote of the week is out of Team Themes 4. It's from Steve Jobs. And it says, "Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice." And I put that in the book mainly for coaches. Like, it was actually, in my opinion, I put it in there for the coaches, but of course that would apply to players as well. We do a thing. We do a father-son retreat. So we get the fathers there and their boys are there, and we do this game. I'd recommend a lot of y'all maybe do this with your team. So what we'll do is we blindfold the kids, and they've got to walk across like a gym floor. Well, while they're doing that, of course, we got all kinds of random stuff in there, like an obstacle course. They got to step around and they got to go through and they got to do whatever. Well, the caveat is the dad has to get them from one end of the floor to the other, but he can't go in there with them. So he's got to be on the sideline guiding them through this, and of course you have them trying to tell them go 6 inches right, go 4 feet left. Well, while we're doing that, I tell my coaches to make as much noise as possible. Make this as difficult as you can. And we dump, 40 boys out there at once. You got 40 dads yelling. You got coaches making noise. Very, very difficult. And of course, they get across there, and it's funny to watch it because, the kid will mess up and then they'll argue about who did what, whatever it is. But the point of the exercise when we get done is we talk about that's what it's really like. You have one person in your corner, hopefully your dad, if you're blessed to have one, that is there telling you what to do, that wants the best for you, and you have all this other noise on social media, noise from your friends, noise from this, noise from that. And a lot of times we lose what's most important for the noise, and then we're lost. So that's the point of the exercise. And in my mind, that's kind of what this quote is getting at. I
really thought you were about to... Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I said you've got a thought process that you were trying to go somewhere. You've got your own voice. You've got, in my opinion, that inner voice. I'm religious. I believe is God. But whatever you think that is kind of guiding you where you need to go. but a whole lot of times it's easy to ignore that and just go with whatever is easy. And I think there's a lot of people that would rather do easy than what they know is right.
Absolutely. I really thought you were about to say, "Hey, this is how we tell dads to quit yelling at us in the stands." I've got to get
That'd be
11
good.
guys over all these obstacles down the gym floor, which is the football field, and you guys are just yelling, and that's pretty funny. But that's an excellent one, Coach. I appreciate that. I think about this all the time because self-confidence is such a weird thing. I think obviously being in the military, being in football, we're all striving to have people become confident, and a lot of youth right now that's lacking, right? Few and far between kids are very confident in themselves and their own abilities, and then it seems like somewhere along the way that confidence you're looking for it, and then you find a kid that has it, and it for somehow gets tagged as like arrogance, right? So it's very strange mechanism that confidence is. But if you are someone that feels like you are confident, I love this quote for that. Just do what you know to be right, and then hopefully it is in the best interest of everyone around you. So excellent quote. Glad we started with that one, Coach. It's a good one. Let's jump into conversation here. So question one. So we're talking run blitzes and pass blitzes tonight, and kind of what the differences are and how we use them. So I guess just first question is, what is the difference in a run blitz versus a pass blitz?
And it's tough for me because I really don't know if there's a giant difference between them. I think there's similarities, with both of them. So I'm just going to kind of say what I would think. For me, if we're going to run a run blitz, we're probably doing a couple things. We're probably trying to gain a player into the box. So you're probably going to be bringing a DB into it. You're gaining a body. So I think the numbers game becomes more important in the run one, or the pass one. A lot of times you don't really want to, you don't want to bring 6 and go man 0. So you're probably trying to drop guys to keep even numbers. Where in a run blitz, you're assuming they're going to run it, so you're probably much more willing to get 8 guys up in the box. So I think that's one thing is you're probably going to commit more people in the run game, or at least bring guys into areas to fit where the blitzers left for the run game. I think second, a lot of times that's more of a shallow type blitz. Like you don't really want to blitz upfield if they're going to run like trap or power or whatever. So a lot of times, you're bringing a guy, but you're not really going upfield with them. So you might be taking a defensive lineman and stemming him across some gaps, but you're kind of wanting to get horizontal type movement with those guys. You don't really want them just to run upfield. Like on a pass, you're going to get a deeper type rush. I think the other thing you can think on a run blitz, or at least I think on a run blitz, is a lot of times you're just stunning a guy into the gap he was going to fit anyway. So like you have a young linebacker who's not reading his keys very well, and you're going to send him into the gap he was responsible for anyway. So he's responsible for A gap. You're going to call whatever your word is to send him into the A gap. And at least you're getting him moving to the gap where you think the run's going to go. So to me, I think of those type things when I think of run blitzes. When I think of pass blitzes, you got to almost think about the opposite. Like we want to bring pressure, but we want to maybe overload it from one side, where we're going to flush a quarterback, or we're going to overload maybe just the right side so we can get a free rusher. But we don't really want to bring 6. We might just want to bring 4 and maybe drop a D lineman. So that's different because, you're talking about trying to keep your numbers that can still cover up passes. So it's a little bit different in the way I look at it. There's maybe more zone type blitzes, maybe more where we're going to show something, but only 2 are coming, and really, the other 2 are dropping. So you play more cat and mouse game, I think, in the pass deal. And then again, they tend to be a little bit more, I would say, use the word deeper. Like they tend to be more about getting penetration, where we may be trying to open a gap up, but we're trying to get somebody into the quarterback's face, whether that's a D lineman or a linebacker who's twisting. We're trying to get somebody into the quarterback's face. And so I think those are the big differences in it. I think the major one is In a pass one, I don't necessarily just want to sell out blitz every time. I want to simulate that. In a run blitz, I kind of do want to bring a bunch of them up to the line of scrimmage because we think it's a run. So we want to get guys moving towards the run.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a really fine line because every single play has the option to be a run or pass, right? And so that's what you start looking at reads on the defense, stuff like that. There's a reason why we're reading a run pass read at basically every position. And you might say your corners, well, they're just gonna run pass every time, unless you're a cover 2 guy, right? Because then they're your force player usually. But if you're cover 3, cover 4, those guys are usually bailing out no matter what. If you're cover 0 or 1, they just have one dude to cover up, and so. But for the other 9 guys, they really are going to get a run pass read on every single pass or every play. So I think that there is a very fine line between them. When I think pass blitzing, a lot of the times I'm trying to overload one side or the other. And I know you could say, well, or run blitzing is the same. Yeah, but they could run to the left or to the right, right? So they could just run away from you, overloading some area. And you've done nothing but eliminate your numbers from that side of the field. So that's when I think pass blitz, especially with a young, unexperienced O-line, we always see is like that little outside backer off the edge, which is nothing, really. It's a very simple blitz. They can't account for him, and all of a sudden there's a sack, right? And so that's kind of what I think. Number one is attacking pass pro. Okay, where are they going to pass? Or where are they going to fit the running back? Do they keep a tight end in? So that's kind of where I do my pass blitzes. Is I'm scheming them up, and they may even be paired up weird, just to change up what the O line's reading. I may be kind of like you talked about, Kenny, is just showing something just to get a lineman to point at them. Right? Oh, I got a guy coming in A gap. Well, he's not coming. But what I need you to do is not pick up that outside backer who is going to come. Where's the running back responsibility? Is the quarterback responsible for a gap? So those are things I'm looking at to get in a pass blitz so I can essentially beat those 5 who can all drop back and just zone block me in pass pro. When I get into my run blitzes, what I'm really trying to do is I'm more worried about manipulating reads, changing counts, working gap exchanges, things like that. And so you get into, old school zone read. You're going to read a defensive end. He crashes, I keep it and pull it. If he stays upfield, then I hand it off. Right? And so you talked about the stunts. So if I'm going to run blitz that, I'm going to blitz my outside backer, and I'm going to take his read away and make him come, but I'm also going to crash that D in. So we get that gap, that natural gap exchange. And now the quarterback is pulling, he's keeping the ball and running right into my blitzer. So that guy's, his job was never come off the edge and rush the quarterback if he's a passer. He absolutely could. And you talked about the depth of these blitzes. Like, we want to teach our kids to read, if I do get a pass set on that blitz, well, it probably wasn't zone read. Right. And so we're going to make sure we, contain the edge, keep the quarterback pent up in there so the rest of our guys can go get him. So it's kind of manipulating reads that way. Same thing with RPO teams. So I'm sure you see a ton of blitzes. Probably a lot of guys try to go like cover 1 or cover 0 and try to bring the house. But what I really think about is if I can just see someone's only got 1 or 2 RPOs, hey, we're going to read your inside backer. That's fine because I can manipulate that read. I can send him, get a quarterback to pull it and throw it, but my safety's replacing immediately, right? Obviously, it makes me weak in other places because I'm taking probably my middle of the field safety out of that area, and he's going to sit, a little bit closer. But if that's what I'm trying to defend on that play, then that's what I'm trying to defend on. I can still stop the run and have a kind of an answer for an RPO. I realize that it seems like people that are RPO have a lot of them. So just making that one change is not going to help you win the entire game, but it might help you win a down. The other one is just changing counts. And you kind of mentioned this one, Kenny. That's if it's zone teams especially, right? A zone team wants to basically block stacks. We want to try to get to the second level, open up wherever the zone's going to open, and then get to the next level to, stop that linebacker from making the play. Let the running back make the cut. Let him make the O-line right. Well, if I send someone through one of those gaps, I'm taking away a double team and I'm getting more one-on-one blocks, which you might say is a win for the offense, right? But I've stopped that vertical movement that zone teams want so badly. And if I get 11 one-on-one interactions in a football play, that means one of them's the ball carrier and my defender. So the more one-on-ones I can push, I feel like I gain the advantage, especially right there at the line of scrimmage when I'm applying that pressure. So that's kind of the way I think about it. Timing, of course, as well. You talk about, we were discussing last week, how do you answer run-throughs on gap scheme, right? You're going to be pulling a guy. You've got to have it. That's a problem, right? It's a problem when people run through those gaps that you're evacuating. So if I can change the timing on a play, if I can change the timing of your mesh, your reads, whatever it is, I feel like that's more of a run blitz than pass. I guess they can blur. That line can be blurred, like you said. Part two here. Why do you carry both?
Yeah, in my mind, you said it. I mean, every blitz has got to be able to handle both because you call a blitz and you think it's one or the other, but you don't really know. And I'll give you a real quick example. Like there are certain blitzes that are very much pass blitz, and like a zone drop blitz, you probably don't want to call on a run because if you got a D lineman that's misreads it and dropping backwards and they're running the ball, you're probably in trouble. Dolphins used to do this when they had Flores there. They called it tag. They would line up 6 dudes up front. You got 5 to block them. All of them are rushing. And then they would teach, if a lineman engaged you, you would tag them and drop in coverage. And if a lineman didn't engage you, you go sack the quarterback because you're the unaccounted for guy. So that's how they would kind of teach this. That's a really good pass blitz. Like if you know they're going to throw it, really good pass blitz because you can take hot routes away, you can drop guys out. That would be terrible against the run because you just block everything down and kick a guy out. Man, you got a big old gap right there, and the guys that you got guys that are backing away from linemen blocking them. So
Yeah.
you need to kind of know the difference. So if you have some of those exotic type pass blitzes, you don't really want to call those on runs. So that's why, in my opinion, you want to have certain blitzes you like against pass that you carry. So that's an extreme example. Another example, again, might be like a zone drop. Like you're going to bring an outside linebacker and you're going to drop a D end into his coverage zone. Probably don't really want to run that against a team that is going to run the ball. Like that's a 3rd and 15 blitz that you're going to call there. So you want to have those that you can do. And in my opinion, you want to have the ability to get to either blitz. Like you need to have your run blitzes for when, last night that team averaged about 280 across the front. We don't. So there were times they were kind of giving it to us a little bit. Well, we needed to have ways to, like Daniel said, change the picture for the defense. We're not really bringing extra guys necessarily. We're getting more guys into the run fits, and we're exchanging gaps, trying to do something to kind of confuse the run game. So those are the blitzes we kind of go to if we're trying to stop a run. It's not necessarily a bad thing to call against a pass, but you really probably don't want to be bringing both inside linebackers and then throw a curl route. So you have certain blitzes that you like against those run-heavy teams, and you have certain blitzes you like against pass-heavy teams. And then in my mind, you get certain blitzes that this is something we're going to do against either. We're comfortable with this blitz against either one. And some of them you won't even use game to game. I mean, you play an under center veer team, you're probably not running any of your pass stuff. But you play a team that's going 5 wide, you're probably going to run a lot of that stuff. So I think you need to carry different types of blitzes kind of in your tool bag that you can refresh each week and kind of have them ready for what you might look at. In my opinion, that's why you would want to keep both.
I think that you kind of go back to what the differences are and why I carry both. I'm a big outside backers, my force guy. I don't like using defensive ends, and I know that some people are good with boxing their defensive ends. I don't like using corners. If I'm playing cover 2, it's read 2, which is really just cover 4, and I don't want those corners having to come tackle. And so if I'm playing a run team, the last thing I really want to do is send my force guy on a blitz to where now he's prone to make a mistake, whether he blitzes too deep, too shallow, becomes the read man, whatever it is. I don't really want my force guy on a rundown being the blitzer. And I know some people would say, well, that's absolutely fine. You're just forcing the issue earlier. You might be, or it might cut right underneath him, and now there's no one out there to make the stop, right, to make the play. So we're on a passing down. I'm quite a bit less concerned about that, right? I'm that's the guy that we've already discussed can easily get back there in the backfield. He's hard to account for in your pass protection unless you're going to keep 7 back, which I guess is okay, right? If you want to keep 7 to pass pro with, that's even better for us as a defense. That's less routes for me to cover. So it's kind of a win-win for the defense there. I like to carry both because of that reason. And you basically already said it, but situationally, you're going to run into places in a game that it's okay to send that force dude. Look, if it's 4th and 1, it doesn't matter if and in the game's on the line, it doesn't matter if your force guy stays at 5 yards and comes and makes the tackle late, right? It's right now. So you might as well force the issue and see if you can just get them to make a mistake. That to me is a great, just bring them all, bring the house kind of thing. I think the old Madden was like bring 8 or something. I can't remember what the exact terminology was on it, but
yeah.
Engage 8, that's it, right? And then you just play your minimal cover 3 behind it. If it's 3rd and 18, it's kind of just the opposite, right? I can still send a lot off the edges, but I don't really want to leave a whole bunch of empty zones. So situationally, I think is why you have to have both, because kids have to be comfortable bringing pressure, understanding I'm just another wrecking ball back here causing chaos, or this is kind of more of a precision strike. I've got to get back there, and I got to do it in a quick amount of time because I know I have minimal people covering, dropping into coverage behind me. Whether you want to run a 3-over-3 or 4-over-2 or whatever you're doing in your defense, those guys need to be a little more precise and probably a little more coached up so that they don't get back there and make a mistake. Or the quarterback runs out from under him, right? Like, so there's all sorts of things you can do there. Last question here, Coach. How do you game plan each type of these blitzes?
Well, I'll start with passes. I mean, like when we're looking at attacking a quarterback, we're going to meet, because we're going to meet Sunday. We got to scout this team. We're playing week 0. So we're going to be looking at different blitzes they want to carry. First thing I'm looking at is like, how's their screen game? Like, are they going to really make you pay if you heat it up? Like teams that run screens want you to blitz. I mean, you look at, I can't remember how many times I've seen Tom Brady or, Peyton Manning or now Patrick Mahomes, and they recognize you're coming and they check that little tunnel screen and there it went, and so you got to kind of figure out, do they have an answer? Like, what is their answer? Do they have a good screen game? Is their answer going to be just chunk verticals? I mean, do they have an answer? Daniel's already done a good job of kind of covering what's their pass pro. So where's their weakness in their pass pro? That would obviously factor in there too. Like, is there a hole in their pass pro where you can get a free guy through? Then that's what we're looking at. So what are their counters to it? What are they going to do when we blitz? Where can we get a free guy? To me, what kind of coverage are you going to have to pair with that blitz? And do you feel comfortable versus this offense in that coverage? Because some blitzes, you're basically going to run cover 0. Like, I mean, are you comfortable on that play running that coverage against that team? And you have to answer for yourself on that. Are you comfortable running roll cover 3? Are you comfortable running, match quarters or whatever it might be? What coverage pairs with the blitz? So we start off with what's their answer to the blitz. Then we look at, okay, what blitzes hurt them? Like, where's their pass pro weak? And we can get a guy. Then we look at, okay, now we know what their answer is. We know we can get a free guy. What coverage pairs with that we're comfortable with? And I think that's why you want to have a lot of options, because that week you may pare down to 3. Like, these are the 3 that we like against this team because we can run this coverage, because this is their beaters for the blitz, and this is how we can get a guy free. Like, that's what I'm wanting to hear Sunday when I walk in from my DC. We're going to run these blitzes because this is why. This is the coverage we're going to run behind it, because when we blitz, we think they're just going to throw jump balls or whatever their answer is. Okay,
Yep.
Run blitzes. You got to start looking at what kind of scheme do they run. What kind of scheme are they running? Daniel did a good job kind of going through zone, like how you would maybe gap exchange the zone read. So you're going to look at, okay, maybe they don't run zone, maybe they run buck. What blitz do I think I could overload? Can I get a guy through the A gap and they're not going to handle that well? Could I get a guy blitzing hot off the C gap that could blow everything up? Those are the blitzes we want to have. What blitz do I have in my tool bag that can do that? And then what am I going to roll behind it to make sure that if he does get through that blitz, I got a guy back there to save me. And so that's how we're looking at run, is what kind of scheme are they doing? Is blitzing going to help us? Or are you going to open yourself up to creating bigger plays? Because a lot of times as a DC, be gain of 5, gain of 6, gain of 8, gain of 5, gain of 6. And as a DC, that's not good. But you know what's worse? 70-yard touchdown, because you blitzed and they had an answer, house call. So you've got to kind of figure out, what can I blitz in the run game that's not going to just leave me open to these huge runs. I don't care who you are in high school football. Our first drive of the season, it took us 12 plays to score. And believe me, I kept worrying, when are we going to screw this up? Because it's hard to go on a 12-play drive and not screw it up. I like the one-play drives better. And so as a defense, you don't want to run blitz yourself into a 70-yard touchdown. So just be careful in that world.
Yeah, you covered most of the X's O side of it. Personnel-wise, I think you got to look. So, last year when I was trying to scheme up my run blitzes, I love bringing one of my safeties in the middle, right? I love blitzing a safety through B gap. And that way I get the hosses up front can kind of split. I can bring in to keep my force players out there. They can play the edges. I've got extra backers in the middle. And here I come bringing the safety. So it's like, what are you going to do? Because now I'm adding numbers that your O-line haven't accounted for. I think adding to the box count is one heck of a way to get a run blitz in. And so that's what I'm going to look for. Are they super committed to what they're doing, such that if I add numbers to the box, they're not going to change anything, right? Against you, Kenny, I'm probably not going to do that, because I know you have tags and RPOs and you'll formation me to death if I start trying to send people all over the place. So, but that's not every coach, right? There's some of them that are going to sit in the same formation. They're going to run the same play. A run play is a run play. And if I can get numbers in there and stifle their run, make them one-sided kind of, which, is kind of the old, that's what I remember about football from being a kid. Make them one-dimensional and you win the game, right? Because now you've got them where you want them. So that's kind of how I look at my run blitzes. Is they're tied in someone they can actually slip a pass out to. You talked about screens, right? We talk about, if you go on a blitz and someone who can catch a pass shows up, cover him or tackle him. That's kind of going to be your job. Yes, you've now eliminated yourself from going to sacking the quarterback, but he also doesn't have a running back to throw to because you just tackled him in the backfield. And then you get into the pass blitzes. And so then what I really want to do is, what kind of coverage, you said it, what kind of coverage are we trying to run? Do they have deep threats? They have guys that can outrun me every time, and I'm trying to speed up the quarterback. And like you said, Kenny, now I'm opening myself up to that long ball touchdown, right? So maybe I need to go 4-over-2 this week instead, 4 high zone and hope the quarterback tries to sneak it deep because, or excuse me, deep, because I'm going to have more defenders than he's got receivers. And then if he wants to try the screen game, like I said, hopefully we've tackled or covered whatever comes our way. And so I can look at the personnel, their receivers, their tight ends, their running back. How do we match up that week? Because that's going to determine a lot of how I script it up or how I game plan which blitzes we're going to put in. So that added to kind of what you said earlier about finding their weakness, find the hole. What do they not handle well? It could just be that the quarterback doesn't handle blitz as well, right? So any blitz might be the best one to run versus some quarterbacks. Somebody starting a freshman, maybe he's just got wheels and he's really, he likes to rely on those a bunch. Well, that's fine. We can just blitz up the middle and have our force guys kind of waiting on him, right? You kind of reverse of, you could blitz the outside and contain, or just blitz the middle and get him kind of up on his toes and run into you. So I think there's a lot of things to look at when you go into game planning each type of these blitzes. The best answer is going to be carry some of each. Having an answer. My biggest thing is just have 3 ways to stop whatever they do well. So you talked about maybe they're a buck team, maybe they're a power team, the zone team. Just come up with 3 ways to stop their main plays. As you make them rip that sheet out of the playbook, what do they go to next? Have an answer for that. And now you've kind of got them on your terms, right? Whether it's one-dimensional or just using their third best run play, whatever it is, you can kind of put the game on ice there. Awesome, man. I think we kind of punched all the holes there. Let's get to our last part here, what not to do as a coach. So what is your lesson for today?
I think we kind of both have mentioned it in the podcast, but I think a big thing to be careful of is blitzing simply to blitz, like just calling a blitz because you want to call a blitz, without any thought process behind it, or not teaching your kids how to execute the blitz. Like, what is the goal of this blitz? And I think even with our team, we have a lot of blitzes in right now. It's early in the season. And so I don't know if we've done a really great job yet of making sure they all understand, like, how to blitz. Like, for instance, we've got a young linebacker who's going to be really, really good for us. He's walking up early and getting picked up. So we work with him a little bit. Well, last night we teach him, we're going to show on this A gap. You're going to retreat back before they snap, and you're going to shoot the other A gap. And lo and behold, he does it perfect. He's in the backfield on the running back immediately. And so that's the kind of stuff you got to teach your kids. Like, we want to show this and go here. Because sometimes we almost teach our kids like they're robots, or a lot of times they're just playing a game. So teach them how to hide what you're doing to get what they want done. And so I think a lot of times we say blitzes and they get so excited, they just walk up and assume, because in scout team, they usually do just turn them loose. But, in a normal game, they're going to probably pick that up. And so I think spending a lot of time on the front end explaining how to blitz, and then as a coach, having a reason you're sending blitzes. Not just sending blitzes because, man, we're getting the break speed off of us. We got to do something. Daniel even mentioned there's times when guys, you just have to. Whatever you're doing is not working, but you at least want to have a plan, like a plan of why we're sending what we're sending, so that it at least makes sense. And I think that's probably, to me, especially young DCs, that's what I see the biggest problem with, because I go against a lot of these DCs as a coach, is early on in the game, they have a plan. And then we kind of punch a few holes in the plan as an offense, and then their defense gets worse and worse and worse, not because their plan was bad, but because now they just start trying to just throw darts and hope something's going to work. And now our 8-yard games we were getting turn into house calls. So just be careful when you get in that world.
Absolutely. Good point. All right. As we close out here one last time, I remind you to go see Mark and Ryan over at Ace Sports. Get the best fundraiser you're going to probably do for yourself. Big ticket item fundraiser. That's the place to get it. As we get out of here, don't forget to check out Team Themes Volume 4, the Coach's Cap. We forgot to talk about the Coach's Cap earlier. Go to coachescap.com and get Kenny's patented. I thought I had one laying around here somewhere. Get you a sun hat. The whistle's connected to the strings. You don't have like 2 things around your neck all the time. All right, go out and get you a coach's cap. Get one for your whole staff. Take care of your skin. Social media, you can find me at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter /X. You can look me up on Facebook. It's kind of started growing there more in the football coaching world. And then you can reach out at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. Don't forget to look me up on Patreon. Patreon's where I give you an opportunity to help kind of support me, and then I give back to you with knowledge or how-to videos, or we can just talk about your team, what you're in need of, all kind of fun stuff on there. So go in there and find a tier that works for you. Kenny, where can we find you on social media, sir?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So at FB Coach Simpson on Twitter, FB Coach Simpson at Gmail for emails. Of course, FBCoachSimpson.com. Daniel's kind of mentioned that's got 40 books and lots of materials, and you can email me through the website if you want to.
Awesome. Podcast is at Coaching 101 Pod. Started sharing a few times a week there so you can guys get sneak peeks before you jump into the episodes. I want to thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We'll hope you join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you always know when the new episodes are out. Share the stuff on social media, right? Share the podcast with your friends. I found that we get in these little echo chambers, these little bubbles, and we think everyone's heard of everything we're doing, and it's not always the case. So share it out. Let some other people know about the podcast. We just hit 60,000 downloads today. So we're doing okay. All right. Numbers are growing, but we want to get even bigger. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.